There are very few names in the Napa Valley as recognizable as Hudson, and very few people, for that matter, as recognizable as the proprietor, Lee Hudson, who has owned Hudson Vineyard for a very long time and continues to be one of the most respected growers in the entire region of Napa Valley. His vineyards have been the source for some of the most acclaimed winemakers in the region, especially for Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. So you know that when he is sourcing for fruit himself, that man is doing his due diligence. And I am very excited about what is in this bottle today. This is the 2020 Cabernet Sauvignon coming from a undisclosed location. This is a mountain location that is a friend of his. We don't know where it is, but as I mentioned, Lee Hudson, he knows some people in the valley, and this man is not going to get fruit from just anywhere, especially if it's going into a bottle with his name on it. This is one of my favorite examples of great wine that came out of 2020, a vintage that we all dealt with personally, but also professionally. And I'm super excited because when I smell this wine, it just reminds me that 2020 was just this gorgeous, warm, lovely vintage that got the fruit nice and ripe and juicy, but there were also really beautiful examples of wines that show great tenacity, great verve, and this is certainly one of them. Now, as I mentioned, this is not coming from the Hudson Ranch, which is located in Carneros. This is coming from a mountain site that is undisclosed. And when you smell this wine, you should be picking up really great concentration. There is an intensity to this wine on the nose that you really don't get so much on the valley floor. It feels like the berries really kind of got thicker skins. They're maybe a little bit more intense, a little more dark fruited. And there's also these really gorgeous like cocoa, vanilla, and just something that feels altogether warm and lovely. But here's what I love the most about this wine. This is an incredibly approachable wine in its youth, and you don't get that a lot from wines that are coming from the more mountainy terroirs of Napa Valley. They can be a little bit austere, they can feel a little bit aggressive, especially in their tannic structure in their youth, but this is just so generous, and it really speaks to the 2020 vintage, which was, as I mentioned, a little bit on the warmer side that year. This is Napa Valley Cabernet through and through, and you can really feel the great winemaking of this wine. And I don't say that in a way that feels heavy-handed. I mean it in a way that it really allows the terroir to come through. It feels like it's supported. It feels like there was great winemaking, but you can also tell that there is great fruit coming from wherever they were able to get it from. Definitely make sure you get this in a glass, swirl it, get some air into it, but you don't necessarily need to decant it. This is a wine that you saw me just open, pour into the glass, and it's really delicious as is. So feel free to drink it as such, or feel free to pair it with food. Cabernet can go with lots of different things. Of course, we love Cabernet going with something more meaty. So if you've got a steak, if you've got a roast, if you've got some protein for those tannins to latch onto, by all means. But I'm also a big fan of just drinking this on its own, or even pairing it with like a snack. I've got peanut butter pretzels up here, and I'm telling you, it's one of my favorite pairings on the planet. A handful of peanut butter pretzels and a glass of Cabernet can really make your troubles go away. Trademarked, just kidding. I love drinking Cabernet, especially this time of year, because it feels like I can relax. It feels like I can just let my hair down. And this is a great example of a Cabernet that doesn't require a lot of finessing. It doesn't require me to put it into a decanter. It's just a Cabernet that's ready to be drunk, and it's delicious, and a wine that I am absolutely going to enjoy over the course of not just one night, but potentially 2 or 3. It's not going anywhere. So if you don't want to finish this in one sitting, feel free to put the cork in it, put it back in the fridge, and allow it to open over the course of 2 days. This wine is just going to be perfect after.